Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to episode 7 of the Creative Odyssey podcast. We have a great one for you today with our very first guest. Now, about a third of the way through, you may notice a slight audio change. Don't worry, it's not your ears. We experienced a small technical issue this time. So either way, I'm really looking forward to the conversation here, and I sure hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sharon.
Hi, my name is Ben.
And this is the Creative Odyssey podcast.
We're here to talk about the creative process.
The good,
the bad,
and the ugly.
But more importantly,
we're here to create together.
Whether you're a creator, a dreamer,
or just curious about the creative process,
explore with us
as we figure out what it means to be a creative
and build a community
that celebrates the creative journey. Let's get started.
All right. Welcome back to the Creative Odyssey podcast, everybody.
Welcome.
This is episode 7 already.
7.
Yes. And we are going to be doing something a little bit different in this episode. After 6 episodes of talking amongst ourselves, we finally relented and let somebody else join us.
Hi, guys.
This is Joey Liberatore.
Voice is still cracking, so there.
Welcome to podcast, Joey.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you actually made it because you came all the way from
Colorado. Yeah.
All the way.
So if you are a follower, understand that people travel from far away.
This is a big deal.
Yeah. I literally came from the mountains.
Just to be in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just to be on the podcast, too.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other reason you came
Riding
here.
that plane was daunting.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Lewis and Clark, they had it easy.
Oh, my goodness.
My goodness.
So anyways, why is Joey here? Well, it's interesting, right? We have started this journey by understanding who you and I have been and as creatives and breaking down all of that stuff and what we like. And first of all, accepting that, okay, we are two creative people who can get along well with. And we have a lot more creativity that like bursts or birth and grow, right, when we're hanging out together. And
it's quite amazing how much different branches of my creativity has been challenged, changed, and expanded.
Yeah.
Just from us talking.
Exactly. I mean, it was almost like we were very intentional. Even we were intentional in the podcast because we were breaking down what we were talking about, trying to make sure that it's somewhat of a flow, right? But what I realized that ended up happening was we got to know each other in those ways. We kind of opened up about our reality of our creativity and the vulnerable stuff, the bad stuff as well, like how dark it gets at sometimes, as a creative. So yeah, and then we understood our creative blocks. Then we kind of fell into this kind of rabbit hole of okay, well, how can we crack the code? How can we figure out creativity? And what if we actually figure out and can inspire others to create as well?
Yeah.
And then we figured out the prototype state of mind, which was super cool. And then that led to this natural conversation. I was like, Ben's like, okay, that sounds cool and everything, but when you actually try to change your ways and try to think and be in the prototype state of mind where you're just trying to create the prototype and get over the blocks, that's hard because it's super a changed behavior, new behavior.
Yeah.
And one of the beautiful things too is that even just having the podcast in general, discussing your thoughts, sometimes I can't conceptualize what I'm feeling or what the creative problem is until I verbalize it out loud, whether it's to myself like a crazy man or with other people who are like-minded. So having that discussion, kind of hashing out those ideas is kind of crucial almost. So.
Yeah, it's crazy how much it changes when you involve somebody else. Mm-hmm. I mean, really the inception for the podcast was you doing that. It's you're creating alone, I'm creating alone, and you're like, hey, Ben, let's make something and see what happens. And now we're inviting somebody else in, and it's just I'm super excited to hear your perspectives, your thoughts, and different things that we'll go through today. Just because, like, we've obviously, like Sharon was saying, hashed through everything so much already. And I kind of did feel like at the end of episode 7, I'm like, or I'm sorry, at the end of, this is 7, yeah. End of episode 6, what do we do now? Like, I feel like this, like, okay, we can keep going in this, like, mental health awareness, brain neurological change way, but I don't really know where to go.
Right.
So,
I mean, there are multiple ways of going into the subject of creativity, but what I like about this decision was it's almost organic, right? Like, you know, you're like one of our main fans.
number one.
Like, we was
number
super,
one fan.
I mean, genuinely, Joey, though, like,
They're playing it coy. I like pestered them for like days
which
to
is
get me
true,
on.
however.
At first, I'm like, no, Joey, not yet. And
No,
then I'm
no,
like,
no.
Okay, Joey.
Joey, sit back. It's Joey, no, not now. No.
But no, I think I mean I don't think I ever said this to you when we met. I don't know why, but like getting that response from you, dude. I mean, you know how it is when you support somebody trying to do something new. That meant the world to us, right? Like we really milk it too. We put it on Instagram, but more than milking it, I think we resonated with you. Like we are like, oh my gosh, somebody else,
Right? Yeah.
who is resonating with us is saying something to us and actually engaging. So that was super, I don't know, encouraging for us.
That is like the community of it all. It's like when your friends or even honestly just like random strangers, when they're creating something that really like sticks out to you, it's also the creative's duty to support the other creatives, because if you are kind of within your own world, you are limiting your own creativity by not like expounding on other people's ideas. So like it's like a creative is way beyond just kind of like doing like what you want to do or what make whatever you want to make.
Yeah,
it's a community aspect. It's very much building each other up, or like just like harvesting new ideas from other people. So, yeah.
That's a great point too. I think a lot of people don't even realize that that's part of being a creative, is to respond to other creatives.
I forget it very often too.
Yeah.
Like there's many times where like I'll like scroll through Instagram and like I'll see something that's like so good, and then I'll just like maybe like hit the like button, but like I don't like comment as much as I should, but every time I do comment, it makes me feel nice inside. It's like, yeah, like you there, like here, you are doing a good job. And like, it's just like there needs, I think, like at least within me, I need to like remember to do that more often, just like with random people that I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, especially like friends or family that are making stuff with their own stuff.
Right. Yeah. And just as a reminder, Joey is the one who responded to, I forget the question, but we
something
read
about creative block. I
yeah,
believe.
something about that, and we read his quote on I think it was episode 3 or 4. So, and it was so like, I just loved it so much. Kind of summarizing your creative as a actual being, as being hungry or full.
It does feel like that, and yeah, in comfortable ways and uncomfortable ways sometimes, because I feel like it's just like sometimes it's just out of control, and I just kind of like whenever it wants to like activate, it does, and then I just like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll make a song, yes, yes, Mr. Creative being.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Joey Liberatore report for duty.
Yeah, I think that's something interesting. Creative people most of the time create because there's a need that all a command given to us in that moment to create that. Like we do it out of, I mean, obedience. I don't know.
Yeah, obedience, compliance, interest.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like when I get inspiration. Or it's not even always inspiration. Sometimes it's just like, I think I need to do this now.
Yeah.
And it's like this gentle nudging almost. Sometimes it's just like, got to do this now. And other times just like, all right, let's go make something.
Is it is it like dependent on time for you guys? Like, I always get stuff happening to me with like 7 p.m. and on, which is a little frustrating because with me doing music, I can't make too much noise for like neighbors. So like,
right.
But that is like the conundrum that I've always find myself in, that like anything creative like activating happens, it's always like more towards the evening.
For me, it's definitely evening.
Yeah.
It's definitely evening. I feel like it's even later than that. It can really happen pretty much any time of the day. It's usually not so much in the morning, but I feel like the most creative inspiration that I get, or prods or nudges, are usually past like 9 or 10 p.m. It's just
Yeah.
like, boom, I got to go write this down, or I got to go record this real quick, or I just got to play the piano or something.
That is like the best word for it. It's just a nudge. It's not something that like you can't help yourself not doing. Like, you can push it away if you need to, like, but like it is always this element of like, I like feel like if I went in the studio, if I went into my workshop, like I could just like go off and like just get on a roll. Like, it's that nudging feeling of like, all right, it's time to get to work. And it's just like, it's so exciting when it happens. And I like the element, at least for me, that I don't know when it will happen, but it just kind of happens very frequently, I guess.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be, it's not all the time, but sometimes it can be excitingly overwhelming, where it's almost like a manic episode, and this could spiral into something completely different. I'm sure that everybody has their own, brain issues or chemistry or whatever. But I'm saying this because when I get some inspiration, sometimes it's so overwhelming. I'm like so focused, and I don't even recognize the time is passing, because I'm like, I'm so into making this, whatever it is.
I would check the clock sometimes, and it's like 3 a.m. when I started at like 7. And it's like, when things start cooking, it really does feel like when I go from like one task to another task to another task, if it's like going smoothly, that time feels so short, and it's just amazing. But also, it doesn't always happen that way. There's a lot of times where like those tasks of like trying to like fix problems, which is honestly my bane quite a bit. I often get very like disappointed in just like really stupid glitches happening that I just like, that slow my roll, and then I just like, all right, well, I'm done, and then I just go to bed or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like time can move so quickly if you're in the process of making something that you're just fired up about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally relate to the technical issues, or whatever you're using is not working, and so your creativity can't flow as easily, and it just like stops. I do quit during those times a lot too. Like, especially if I've been going for a long time. It's like, well, I can't fix this now, or this is causing me to lose my steam because now I'm focusing all my energy on fixing this so I can continue to create. So totally get that. Totally get that.
So I think one of the things I wanted to do as I introduce you, Joey, is like, okay, what kind of guests are we gonna have on this podcast? Most of the time, I think in podcasts, you have people who are successful in whatever field they're in, coming in and spewing wisdom. Here, our goal is to highlight other creative people doing their own thing, and whatever that might be, and breaking down creativity from their perspective, pretty much. So that being said, Joey, you're a musician. Your job is I forget.
I do MRI.
MRI,
Yeah, that's my day job.
Right, that's your day job. And what other creative things are you into?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, well, like music has always been the thing, but I do like photography, like just iPhone photography, nothing fancy. I don't have any like crazy cameras, but I do like framing things and framing shots. So anytime I'm like making a video for anything music related, I do like to have my like brain rolling with like Man, I want to get better at lighting, but like I more so just like shot framing. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
found a lot of like enjoyment in like just like basic photography or videography. That's cool. That's the only thing I could think of, but yeah.
All right. I kind of jumped the gun here, but
Yeah.
how is he here? How do you know him? I don't know him.
I broke
I
in, yeah.
honestly don't know. He just showed up here in one day.
Oh yeah.
I finally
Knocked
let him
on that
in
glass
after
door.
4 days
You
of being here.
wouldn't leave, so-
Well, I had to get past your agent. He was really pushing me away. I don't know.
So
man,
so
what happened?
I've known Joey for, I want to say it's probably about close to the time as long as I've known my wife, Grace.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
Grace is really good friends with your sister, Alicia.
Yes.
And then through that, whatever that web of friends, I think that's how we met. But I
Yeah.
honestly can't quite pinpoint
It's
when.
hard to, I would probably say 6 years, maybe 6, 7
Okay.
years around there.
I've known Grace for 14. So
Maybe I'm
maybe.
completely
Maybe.
off then.
But you know
Yeah.
what? Maybe it's been. I don't remember, but I'm sure
Time
it had
flies.
to do. It really
yeah.
does.
Time flies for creatives, I guess.
I think it had something to do with Trinity.
Yeah, I think I remember the first time seeing you was at church at one point. And then just kind of like events after that and just kind of like hanging out socially, just kind of got to know each other in that way.
Yeah, we had a care group here that you were a
Mm-hmm.
part of. It was kind of like the college age or a little bit past college or something
Yeah,
like that.
fun
Which
times too.
oh,
but,
those
yeah.
were some great groups, man. That we had such good conversations, such good hangouts, just chilling down here.
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. So I think that was like probably a couple years after I first met you,
Mm-hmm.
and then during that time is when I realized that you're a musician just like I'm a musician, and we've talked plenty
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah.
And I think the cool thing is like I've kept up with you as you've moved from Ohio to
First place was Idaho.
Idaho,
And
okay.
then went to Colorado, both 3-month increments.
okay,
Yeah.
and that's where you currently are is Colorado.
Yes, yeah,
okay.
Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I've like kind of kept up with you along those lines. And then, you know, when we started our podcast, you were very like, dude, this is awesome. I loved your enthusiasm. And so Joey reached out to me because I had mentioned like, dude, I'd love to have you on the podcast whenever we get going and when we have guests and whatever. And you reached out to me, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And you're like, I'm going to be in town.
Yeah.
Do you want to record an episode? I'm like, no, not yet. Honestly, I was kind of like, I'm not sure.
Make way! I'm coming!
This was a plan the entire time. Get engaged. Come to the
So,
Sharon's like, we did not prep for this stage. We're like, not ready.
no, it was really cool because you're like, I'm going to be here from here to end of July, and I'm like, Sharon, let's get this guy. I know we had been talking about having 10 episodes
yeah,
before,
yeah.
but we're, you know, like I just mentioned earlier, it's like wasn't even 100% sure where we were going to go next. Right. So this kind of like just felt like a great idea.
Yeah, I'm glad it
like
worked
so
out, yeah.
I'm super pumped that you were able to be here. And
Yeah,
get
yeah.
on.
Thanks for having me. Like, I love talking to you guys.
So, Joey, what does creativity mean to you, man?
Oh, I think it's 3 things for me. Creativity is a means of self-expression, a means of escape, and then a means to heal. Self-expression, I feel like anytime I'm like making either like a song or even my photographs from what we talked about earlier, anytime I'm making something, it is to kind of like further detail like who I am, especially with lyrics. Like I'm like writing lyrics, it's really kind of like almost like word vomiting, like stuff that I'm like deep down inside that like sometimes I can't even like really express it in words, but sometimes it works out better when it's in song.
Really? So you're like
Yeah.
you're singing it and like it's coming out that, or are you writing it down?
It's
Explain that a
it's
little bit.
more so like writing, or yeah, I mean I'll like start songs if I'm like trying to write something. I'll start by kind of like just like jibber jabber mumbling, and then like letting like words kind of naturally flow out of that. But a lot of times like I'll just like go crazy on the keyboard, just like type a bunch of words that like that is like stuff that I'm feeling, and then it kind of like formulates that way. And then the second thing about like escape, when I do that process, it really blurs out the rest of the world, which is why time can like speed up so quickly. Like when I'm done after like a good creative run. But it does offer a means of escape from a lot of noise that I might be experiencing on a random day. And then like a means of healing is something that really resonates with me. I'm noticing that create to heal, like what project you have behind you there. I just shut up because that is that yes, a beautiful piece. That is, I think, at the heart of it, why I like make anything in the first place. It's not really for um like trying to like be something, or like it's really just like I have to make something, because if I'm processing something that's difficult to go through, that is my therapy, that is my journaling, that is the way I process like conflicts or trials, and I like get through them by making a song and then listening through it, and then kind of like letting the negative energy of something I'm going through be locked in place within that song. And then it feels like a burden gets off my chest once that's done. Wow. And every stage of the process makes the burden feel less light. Mm-hmm. So like when the project is in my draft mode or prototype, when it's in that stage, it's like, oh my gosh, it's something like I can tangibly listen to now. It's like I can like separate it from myself, and then it's like now here on my computer. So that is exciting. And then when it gets a little further along, it's more like mixed and mastered, and it's like now something that's like, oh my gosh, this sounds radio friendly. Now it sounds like crystal clear, like everything's compressed, and that's like a further stage of like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can just like relax and like.
So it kind of like it can heal you in steps as the song gets.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, and I don't think it's true healing. Well, no, that's probably wrong to say. I think healing could take different forms and speeds, but at least for me, the healing that occurs is definitely in stages, and it does take time. Some longer than others based on what's happening. But the stages of a song kind of going through its process, the further along it goes in its process, the lighter the burden of what I was going through kind of like relinquishes. And that is like really why I make stuff, is because it's like it's an emotional necessity to like process things and go through.
That is so cool, man. That is something that I don't think I've necessarily experienced, at least at that level. Yeah. There are times when that does it, but you're saying this is something that's like pretty consistent with when you're writing?
Almost always. And I try to be a more of a like a practical songwriter, where like for example, Ed Sheeran will write 1 or 2 songs a day. I could never do this. But like to strive to do that, to like really almost like force your creativity out of itself and really just make it, regardless whether it's good or bad, is really the key of like getting a lot of good stuff out in the midst of having a bunch of bad stuff come out. Because if you just force it every single day, you will make bad songs. I think everyone will make bad songs in that process, but it's the more like the numbers game. Like the more you put out, the more you're going to have those like good old like diamonds and stuff. Which I am nowhere near at all. Like I'm very much at a place where like I write when I feel like I need to, and songs can come up that way, and then I feel like I'm a strange case, because I feel like it works out in my favor a little bit, because I feel like I have a deficit in a lot of like technical stuff. where I like to make the drafts and then give it to someone else to mix or master. And I also take a long time to make something. So when I have a new song idea, it's like, oh, great, this is going to be out probably in 4 years, maybe. So,
Wow.
which is not a good thing. Let me clarify that. So yeah,
So one question I've been asking as you were talking is,
yeah,
you meant, not asking but thinking of asking is, um, you mentioned that you're not trying to be somebody by putting out music, right? And that you create out of a need. So then, uh, what's your identity then?
Mhm.
Like, what who is Joey Liberatore? Like, what are you trying to prove? What are you trying to do? What are you trying, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, that's a great question, and it's something that I often think about because um weird example, but if I lost my hands or something, I feel like I'd have a big identity crisis with I've been playing guitar since I was 10 years old. Like that is for sure an integral part of who I am. And I
the
think
guitar or the creativity?
um I would say both. Yeah, definitely both. Um because I having music for my entire life that just becomes a part of who I am. The creativity kind of came a few years later, after I was kind of doing guitar, just kind of playing songs that I heard and just kind of doing covers more so than actually writing something. Um, and the writing aspect is what kind of solidified another part of, I guess, my identity of, oh, this is how Joey operates in emotional healing or trying to make something cool or um yeah, it was conceptualizing things that resonate with me. That's a great question though, because I feel like I would struggle with that a lot in the sense that if those things were stripped away, who is Joey? I think one of the many things is that Joey is just a person that is empathetic at level and at very loving towards other people and just appreciative of other works that resonate with him.
So then, I don't know why I'm going down this road, but I'm almost feel like I'm playing devil's advocate here. But um, so if you're creating for yourself, why put it out? If it's just something you're doing to heal, why put it out? If that's not a goal.
Because I, in the same way, hear songs that have helped me immensely in processing things because I don't only process things by making something. I have a big old list of songs by other artists that were so impactful for me in really dark times in my life that it got me out of this mental state of I'm the only one that's going through this and no one understands. When I hear other artists pour their heart and soul into stuff that they're going through that are very similar, that helped me also heal. And going through that process, it's man, if I make something that heals me, what does that say about keeping it to myself? If I just keep it for myself and don't hear it, am I robbing someone else of the chance to relate? And I think regardless of how big a song gets or how good it might sound, it's worth it just to post. It's free.
That's a really good point. Why are you keeping it to yourself when it could absolutely help or heal somebody else?
And it's something that's hard to get over, especially because I feel like I struggle with a little bit of perfectionism where I have these ideas that I want to be finished, but they take so long or they don't get finished at all because I'm just it's not this and it can't exist. I want everyone to hear it. But that's that is something that does need to be considered. Like if it's that important, does it need to be perfect? And I would say no. If it's something that you are greatly impacted by, I think the world deserves to hear it, or at least have the opportunity to hear it, even if not many people would. So,
Yeah, that's really good.
I was even thinking about our friend Caleb. His name, artist name is Gradient, and he released an album earlier this year. And one of his main motivations for releasing is that, dude, this music is from my past. Like, there's so much that has happened. I have messed around with so much music that is current to me that I just want to get done with, like, releasing this because I am now interested in this stuff. And that concept, I never thought about it until he mentioned that to me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like, you need to like release it in that season you just came out of or whatever, and that way you can be more current as far as your expression in your art and stuff like that.
yeah, exactly. It's like a little like teleporter of who a person was a year or two ago, or how long it took to make and release it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that? I mean, when you mentioned like, oh, I got this cool idea for this song. It's gonna come out in 4 years. Was that for real though?
Like an average Pixar movie.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I kind of know about music production, but like I obviously haven't mastered anything to the point of putting out anything. So, how does that work? Like, why is so long?
It's gotten better since I got out of school. Ever since I finished school, and then I started like actually having a rhythm of like schedule. It's like, okay, I can make music a little bit more. But that has always been like my bane of existence. It's like I make something and it takes forever to get out. But it's really kind of just the process of I make it, I get the draft, and then it kind of just exists in draft form for a really long time because I personally am not a guy that does all the boxes all the way through the end of the step. I do not know how to mix or master, so I let other people do that.
So there can be a delay getting somebody else to do that.
Which I mean is a normal thing. And also too, if I'm not trying to worry too much about being someone like someone with a bunch of followers, I feel like I'm getting less more to a point where I'm like, yeah, it gets out when it does, and that's when it's supposed to come out. Like, if it's going to come out, if it's supposed to be released, it will in its own time when it needs to be. Kind of like releasing an hour. It was like try to speed along, but like it happens when it happens. Yeah.
That is like not doing the mixing or mastering or whatever the final parts of music production can be quite if you can't do that or you don't want to do that.
It's definitely something I'm like trying to slowly learn. But like I have realized like music is like at least the technical side of things is a science. Like I can pop a compressor effect on some vocals and it does not sound like a compressor. I just like there's so many integral aspects of music production and engineering that are like I'm still learning about every single day and trying to like just slowly make my drafts sound a little bit better. Which I see as a proud person. I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I never feel confident enough to like I'm gonna do this whole project by myself. I got pop it on killers. I have to get someone else to spice it up a little bit. But that's okay.
I think I'm there too. I mean, I know you master your stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, I'm there.
You want a job? I got
It's because I've had a lot more time on Earth than you guys.
Also, because like I mean, you've actually spent time doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of help from a lot of other friends. Funny enough, I was just talking to my wife today about how there was an individual I was playing one of my old songs for her, or she was going through my music or something like that. And I was like, this song, I specifically remember talking to another creative who had just like gone through 2 years of like mastering classes and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, here's this song. I'm having this issue. Like, I feel like I can't separate the instruments. And he listened to it and he's like, do X, Y, Z and try that and see what you think. And don't be afraid to ride the faders, which is basically like, don't be afraid to turn the volume up and down throughout the song.
Yeah.
Right. And like each individual track can have a ton of up and downs. But I did that and it made it sound so good. And so like I started going to him for like more and more questions. So he was really helpful. So shout out to Josh Jesty for that. I would love to have him on.
Yeah,
He's awesome. But yeah, it's partly because I've had so much time to learn and glean different things. So
Yeah.
I can definitely like walk you through some things if you ever have any questions. Yeah.
I like the example you gave, because it reminds me of my own father. So my father, he was a priest back in Sri Lanka, but he was always doing either woodworking or electrical stuff. Like everything around the house, he would build and he would make, in his spare time. But one thing he always had was this one friend, because being a pastor in our country, like you're kind of on a higher level. People, you can't go drinking out with your friends and things like that. You know what I mean? So he only had like a very few selected friends, and most of them were very creative, and they were all like in an area where he wasn't good at.
Yeah.
Like they knew area of like expertise, so like
Right.
mechanical engineering or things like that. So my dad would once in a while just go hang out with this guy, and he would come so happy because he learned something new, or they had this conversation about something, or like building something, or whatever it might be. I realize that's what you need to do. Like if you don't know something, especially in the creative area, you just reach out to somebody and say, hey, can you tell me how to fix this? Like that in itself, like just asking, it's so cool, because you learn so much, and like you clearly did. I mean, I've listened to your music, they're very well mastered.
Thank you.
So
Just a sense of accomplishment too. When you like just whether you ask someone or you like YouTube it, like when you like acquire a skill, kind of like a skill game on it's like skill acquired.
no, that would be so cool. Like a social media thing where all the skills and things you have in your bucket of like knowledge, belt of knowledge.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
And that brings us to today's sponsor, Skillshare.
Literally everybody on earth.
That'd be the perfect segue for it.
Use the code Venture.
On a side note, the sponsorship is literally just like an affiliate link. It's not a sponsorship.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
They're just sharing their Skillshare link. That way they get a kickback.
I'm predicting a sponsorship for you guys by episode 12.
Ooh, okay. I like it. 12. Over halfway there, man.
I saw somebody I know doing a podcast.
Chimpanzee.
Was like giving us a discount for like Ollie Pops. It's like
the soda.
that one, and Sheen.
Sheen.
It's like that's like
know
a
what Sheen is.
fashion Chinese like
Oh,
website. I think.
my gosh.
But it was funny to me. I was like, maybe we should do like random association.
Just like the weirdest sponsors. Let's see how weird we can get.
Lipstick. You got it out to wear. If you got students.
If you think of Creative Odyssey podcast, you think lipstick.
We run out of ideas for the podcast, so we do makeup tutorials.
Please, if we do that, stop watching.
We're done.
Then we are desperate.
Yeah,
So.
seriously. Oh my goodness.
This is going to be a very different podcast episode.
I mean,
I love it.
Well, okay, so I'm curious too. So since you've listened to our podcast, which episode kind of impacted you, or you're like, oh, that one was cool, like,
The creative identity one, I think it was 3 or 4.
Yeah,
sure.
I think it was
Can't remember which one.
three.
One
I think it
one
was
the
three.
block, which I think was a separate
Yeah.
episode. But yeah, the shame
Almost shortly.
I don't remember. dude.
No. I mean, honestly, if you think of it, talk to any podcast host, they're probably like, unless it was the very last one. It's like,
Yeah.
I think.
I
it was
think
that
I'll
one.
always remember episode 5. 5 was like a golden egg type of situation.
Yeah, that's because we put so much into
my
it with the
gosh,
writing
yeah.
and everything
Yeah,
like that.
that one was just very, like, I don't know, just like just relatable for me.
So embracing the creative identity, is that right?
Yeah, because like that's what like resonates with me. It's just like why am I doing this? And like for me, that it's like very clear. It's just I just need to. Like, I need to like process things. I find enjoyment in giving that to the world when it's done, and even more so, people are affected by it. Right. But yeah, like that for me really like stuck out as far as of all the episodes that you guys have done.
Yeah, I think the creative identity, the embracing that concept, it's literally coming to terms with the fact that, okay, you know what? I'm a creative. I'm a little bit outside, a bit weird, not, it doesn't fit the mold, but I'm also this creative person. I can tell better stories. I can inspire others, whatever it might be, or I can even like have somebody do a double take and like, wait, what just happened? And like, or like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was how you ended that story. Like those kinds of things. If those things excite you, most often than not, you're a creative. And accepting that was a huge thing for me because I've always knew that I was a creative, but I've always thought that I wasn't good enough to be considered a creative. Because I realized I was watching something, and it's the culture that I grew up in where we were comparing. There was a time where it was very common for parents to say, look at so and so's child doing so this and that, and why can't you do it? This comparison, and even this notion of like, I'm not good enough, like I was dealing with, that comes from that. So I think in my 30s, I finally was like, you know what the heck am I doing? I'm a creative. This excites me. I am a creative. Like, I'm not a fake. I don't have to have a following to say I'm a creative. That was a huge thing that was completely missing in my head.
Yeah, well, also like comparison is just the killer of like motivation too.
Yeah.
I could think of like a handful of like artists that like, oh, I wish my stuff sound like that. Like Jacob Collier. Like,
oh my
anytime
gosh,
I like listen to his stuff, it makes me want to crawl under a bed.
Oh my God. He is so, dude. He's so good.
But it's like musicians or artists like that, make me pause and be like, I don't need to do this anymore. I can go away. I'm right.
They have enough talent for all of us.
At the same time, the potential of like people getting to that point is learnable. Like you can develop these things that can get you from point A to point B. It's how much do you want to let your creativity thrive, and you're not letting it thrive if you hold it back because someone's doing something better.
Yeah, and in Jacob's situation, it's him being born to the right family.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because his mom recognized that he had a gift. And this woman gave all the opportunities and all the instruments and all for this child to just go on this exploration. See, that's what happens when a creative is in and amongst other creatives. You flourish. You have no limitations because everybody around you are creatives, are applauding you and saying, no, dude, this is really cool. Like, forget about all the crap that somebody else might say or might have said, it's like, no, 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 you are doing the right thing. You are following your heart. You are creating something. This is raw and real. Just follow that drive, that gut instinct to finish and create the prototype and all of these things, because you can become a Jacob Collier level when you're around the right environment.
Yeah.
And that's why we are doing this. That's why I reached out to him, because I needed somebody who understood that I'm actually a creative and I have a lot more to offer than, like my educational background or like whatever experience I have or have not. You know what I mean? Because in society, you look at like your education level, what degree you have, what job, how much money you make. Those are the standards that somebody gets identified with. And I think over time, society is giving creative people a place. However, to make that happen, you have to make social media happen, and this is huge thing. So if we take that social media and all this big thing of making it happen away and say, hey, who are you as a person? Who are you as a creative? All these things, embrace that first and start creating. So that's super cool to like pay attention. I love Jacob Collier, but more and more I realize like it's his mom, it's his sisters too.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's the fostering of a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Like there's
your mom-
obviously the innate talent, but
Yeah.
then just like the environment that he
Right.
grew up just made that talent be the best possible version it could
And
be.
shout out to my dad, because I think if like, and my mom too, well, like if my parents weren't encouraging and like letting that foster, I probably wouldn't be doing music right now.
Right.
And just it's the element of, I think that like, I think a lot of people like kind of cut themselves short too, because they would say like, oh, I'm just not a creative person. I think it's doable for everyone. I would say my first two songs were not all that creative, because, well, and then that's whether you define your creativity as a
Right.
level of good or bad. So like,
Right.
that even falls to it.
Yeah, I don't know if there is really.
Yeah, like if you make something, you create it. So
I mean, it can be the quality level. You could learn
the quality for sure,
right?
Yeah.
That
discourages you. If you like it, it's not good enough for something.
yeah.
I don't know. I like looking at the old stuff because I mean, there was a time I used to think that way, but now I'm like, this is freaking gold.
Yeah.
Like, this is this younger version of me just saying, I could just do it. Let's just do it. And for that sake and things like that. Yeah, that's super cool. We talked about it.
It's cool to like see like you're saying, like comparing it, like looking at your old stuff, but also like kind of comparing it to like stuff you're making now, and like seeing how like your projects have changed.
Oh, yeah.
In that style. Those
Yeah.
things are cool to see and
For sure.
Yeah, it's cool to look back on the timeline of your creativity
Yeah.
and see like, oh, I made that. But that makes sense. Like that's who I was at that time. That was my talent, my ability at that time, and it's still, it's still me
Yeah.
back then. It's kind of cool to look back at that.
So Joey, what was like your aha moment when you recognized that you were a creative?
It was definitely when I would probably put this around 2014, 2015, maybe around that time. It was at the point where I was like just playing guitar, like singing and like doing songs.
How old were you?
Started playing guitar when I was 10, and then sang horribly right up to a certain point. Probably debatable to be honest, but yeah, I was doing a lot of just like kind of like basically just like doing covers and all that, and not really like making stuff of my own. And then I just kind of got bored with just kind of like just doing that, and I was trying to like transition that into making like my covers into like a rendition other than how it's done usually. I was into like finger style guitar picking, where you're kind of like doing the melody with your guitar along with the rhythm as well. Because at the time I like wasn't able to sing all that great, so I would let the guitar sing for me, and that was kind of when I was kind of putting some pieces together, like, oh, I'm like, no one's done something like this before, and like, oh, this is actually kind of like unique. And then, yeah, I think it kind of started from that, just kind of like developing songs that were not my own, but kind of making them my own in my own way. Um, I'd say it started around that time, and then it just kind of developed and worked into, oh, let me make a song, and seeing that kind of just be what it was. I'm like, okay, a lot of room for improvement. Let's try again and make more, and then see what happens. And then, yeah, they just kind of like developed into I guess just like a lifestyle for me, which is kind of like weird to like think about, but that's kind of like how it started.
So it kind of like, it sounds a little bit like it faded in a little bit almost. Like there wasn't like oh, now I'm doing this. Or like, I feel like a lot of people will have to look back and realize that, oh, this is when I
Yeah,
first.
I don't have, and like, yeah, the question I feel like was a little difficult because I was like, I don't really have a specific moment, but that's probably what it is. That is what it is. It was a fate, and it was like a very gradual thing that kind of came about from just learning how to play guitar, and that for other people could just be um, generally just like picking up a skill, whether it's like drawing or getting your first camera and just like making it like, I'm gonna take a picture of the guitar over there, or outside, like just kind of like getting a skill started. And I think skill is what it like plants the seed of letting creativity flourish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think was the first realization that you could write lyrics and that would resonate with you?
I was at a moment where I had written something for the first time out of necessity. Kind of taking me back there, because every time I was writing a song, it was very just kind of like, it was a song and it didn't really have much spirit or like personal weight to it, I guess. And I think that like the beginning stages of like, these are not signing all that great, kind of was discouraging a little bit, and like kind of like gravitated back towards like, oh, cover song and whatever else playing. But when I was going through something that led me to a place where like I need to write, and like that was the first time that happened, and I knew that I made a song that sounded a bit better than the other ones previously. It was like, well, this is helping me, and this is actually sounding good too. And like I was like getting excited, and that was you know, yeah, it was just like, that was the moment, I guess, where it was like, this is something. I'm like kind of tapping into like a part of me that I didn't know existed.
So what point in this process was the heartbreak involved?
Yeah, that's a great.
All over the place.
Always.
All over the place. Yeah. No, right smack dab in the center, my dude.
By the way, he never told us that, so I just figured
Yeah.
like,
Well,
You can allude to it, yeah.
right.
I feel like
Not a
every.
lot of,
Yeah, I feel like every
But I mean,
creative has
that's,
that.
I love that because heartbreak is one of the most rawest things, and I love that like when young people create out of that, like that's so super beautiful. Like I recently listened to one of the high school kids I used to, um, like I was running a small group at church, and he came up with this rap album and he's cussing and all these things, and obviously his parents and people around him at church are worried for him because he's very raw. But I'm like, don't you understand that this child went through a breakup? Not a child, but this high schooler, young adult, went through a breakup, and this is how he's processing it. Yeah, I understand there are bad words, but like if you really listen to his stuff, he's trying to express what he's feeling. And we are here freaking out, and the kid's like, I don't understand why people are freaking out. I get it, but also like I'm trying to say something, and he's rhyming well too, and his like stuff sounds good. I actually commended on him. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry if nobody's giving you a say something good about your stuff, because actually there is some substance to this stuff what you're creating. So I would don't listen to anybody who says whatever negative thing. They're not understanding what you're trying to do here. Continue to create. So he's coming up with his second album now, and I'm like, that's cool. And it's not as like raw and like punchy as before. It's a different aspect of thinking. What I love about it is like knowing the kid and knowing how his brain works, and then seeing and listening to this creation he has made about his experience blows my mind.
Yeah, and like also like just the removing of filters, and expectation. Like if an artist is like known for making this type of song, that is always like a safe and surefire option to like make another one, do something that works, do what the people like. But if you remove those filters and like kind of like force yourself to like, what do I want to do? Yeah, like a couple months ago, I think in general as a placeholder for me, I can make a sad song really easily, and I cannot make a happy song all that easily. Me too. So I have always had this like thing of like I've always had like I need to stop making sad songs and really like make something happy. And then like a song like Hurts came out that I made with my friend Zach. And I like that's a happy song that I'm really proud of. But even in that has a little like sad undertone like within its lyrics that like that's just always there. And like but I bring that up because that's always been a filter over my eyes of like I need to make happy stuff. Happy. Even if it's not like natural in the moment. And then like a couple like months ago, I kind of like just like let those filters out. Just like I need to make a sad song with piano and vocals, and that's it. And I don't care what it sounds like. I just need to make it. Right. And I was really happy with how it turned out, and I loved it. And again, back to the healing, just like it went like the process of making a song like that helped so much because like it's what I needed to do. And like what was your friend that you mentioned?
Caleb.
Yeah, Caleb. Or letting Caleb make the songs that he needed to do, even if it was different from what he's used to making. Yeah. Like sky's the limit for that.
And what I've been hearing in the creative career world, every time you do something creative, an album, they don't, they just say it's a project. Oh, it's a project I worked on. And they're
separating themselves?
They separate themselves from, because it was a product of a concept they had, and they made a project happen. Now they're disassociated from themselves from it, and they're working on the new project. And I think that is a cool way of looking at it, because we put so much emotional weight on our art and our creativity that perfectionism comes into the thing. So if you just said, this is one more project that I'm going to be doing in my creative journey, for me, it's kind of liberating. Like, oh, okay, this YouTube channel right now, it's a project. Oh, Caleb would call that too all the time. This is a project I was working on like for 10 years, and I released it. And now I'm working on a different project. And actually, Caleb, he's doing the background music for a Netflix documentary right now. And it's super cool that he's doing that. And we're going to have him very soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
It's just... So yeah, the concept of project, it just says like this is a collection of...
So project can kind of almost be like the grandfather of a prototype.
Yeah, exactly.
Something along those lines. It is liberating.
Super.
It's weird because I do feel like society puts so much weight, emotional weight or expectational weight on my album is coming out.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this is just a project.
I mean, that's, I think, how EPs came out, right?
I think so. Yeah. EPs were like, well, we're just releasing this because we have a couple songs we want to throw out there, but it's not a professional album.
It's not my LP. Well, also,
LP.
My favorite thing about albums or EPs, they are a great means of telling a story. Aside from like releasing a single here and there, a compilation of songs, very often can have like an internal story within them, and like some stories are better served with long albums and some are less so. Sometimes you only need 4 or 5 songs to tell a specific chapter of one's life.
Yeah. So even in in the world of niching down and sticking to what your brand is supposed to do, this way, creative graphic designers, for example, like they are known as a graphic designer. They work on projects so that they don't get stuck down to one kind of project or whatnot.
That's a really good.
At least that's what I'm understanding.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe we could take a tip from them as musicians and be like, hey, we're across the board.
That's what Jacob Collier is doing. Dude's he's got an Oscar in almost every category because he's making random stuff.
I know. I love that.
Not an Oscar, I mean a Grammy.
Grammy.
Grammy. I'm like, that sounded wrong.
Six Grammys now, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's
count?
insane.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter anymore. We understand, Jacob.
Billie
You're good.
Eilish is a 2-time Academy Award winner now. That's weird to think about.
That is really strange.
Yeah.
Huh. I have no idea.
Or else doesn't want kid films.
Wow.
I don't follow that world as much.
No.
It's just like cool people like Jacob or somebody. Like
I love my movies, but it's cool to see like when like musicians making songs like get recognized in other like realms of creativity, like film.
Right.
Yeah, that is cool. It's cool to be multi-creative or multifaceted in your creative life, but being able to have like awards in different genres, that's like, dang, dude.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like Jacob Collier, I don't think his mom told him like, don't listen to this stuff, don't listen to that stuff. I don't think she ever jumped in and like put a boundary in him either. This guy he knows African music like in the back of his hand. Like he's got down the rhythms and everything that comes so natural to any African musician. He's got it down like, yeah, it's I mean he had to have listened to it first to be like, whoa, this is cool. I want to do this.
That's exactly it. Like that didn't just like that. He wasn't born with that.
Yeah,
he was born with a lot of natural gifting for sure, but
right.
He wasn't born with the understanding of like what is a 7/8 rhythm. I don't even know if that rhythm exists, but like
right,
it does to some extent. But like all these like wacky like rhythms and like scales, like he's like knowledgeable. He had to study that, like as anyone could.
I mean, even the concept of like, okay, let's not accept the C major scale or the notes that are there in the piano. Let's look like beyond that and
his microtoning.
I'm like, okay, kid. Like if I said that to my music teacher, I would have got a slap across my face. Like, what are you talking about?
There are only 12 notes in one octave. No more.
Right. Dare you expound beyond your own?
I mean, to say like discords are normal and all, like don't think about what sounds pretty and all that stuff. Like,
who's the Jacob Collier of woodworking?
Man, that's a good question.
I would say Nick Offerman. Like I know nothing about.
Nick Offerman makes like regular stuff with really he has great workmanship. No doubt.
That's a really tough question. Like the people that come to my mind, like I really like the how many different projects Mark Spagnolo, the Wood Whisperer, does. But I also don't feel like I'm that like knowledgeable in like the woodworking world. Like as far as like other woodworkers.
There is one guy, I forget the name of him, but he uses 3D like CNC, so he carves stuff into a cutting board or anything, but he uses a program called Vector where let's say you're putting an image on a piece of cutting board, he puts different kinds of colors of hardwood into the almost like a puzzle, because he cuts it on a CNC machine and things like that. I don't think he is like God, whatever,
like a Jacob Collier of the world,
but it's a very unique thing,
Yeah.
and his stuff looks so crisp, like so beautiful.
Oh, Frank Howarth.
Frank Howarth.
But he's also an expert videographer too.
Yeah.
So his stuff that he makes is pretty amazing. It's a lot of stuff that is kind of like shop related, but he'll also do beautiful works like tables, chairs, and stuff like that. But the way that he does his video,
no music,
it accents his woodworking and makes it seem like it's better than it is, because he does like stop motion animation in it, just like randomly. It's a
lot of creativity goes behind it, I think. And he does a good job of story. I could look at so many Japanese woodworkers.
Oh yeah, that's true.
They are like, because woodworking is a skill. You can look at music that way too, but Japanese woodworkers are, all of them are on a whole nother level. Like people from other countries go there, grown men who are great carpenters go to them to internship, and pay them or whatever just to learn, because the precision
and they're more manual
so
versus
much
like
more
tools,
manual.
like power tools and stuff. That's the other thing too. Is like I guess if you're saying Jacob Collier, he is multi-instrumentalist, but like total like digital versus analog. Like you go
it's
all that.
cool to see too. Like you mentioned, like Japan, like countries, like their like creativity varies based on geography too. Like Japan has a totally different style, and everything that they would do, whether it's woodworking or music, like the way they approach certain songs is really like interesting. I can't remember if they're Japan, but there's this one heavy metal band called Earthists, I think, and they had this one song that's like, it starts off like super like MIDI, like two perfect MIDI, and then it just gets into like this like heavy like guitar and stuff. But like I would never think to, like, if I was making like a heavy metal song, I would never think to start with like this like
just a MIDI sound.
Yeah. Like it's just cool to see like artists with different like cultural backgrounds make something that like someone coming out of the area would never like think of.
I listen to a lot. There's a Mongolian band, I think, similar to what you're talking about. They're a rock band, but Mongolia, they have the throat singing. So they incorporate the throat singing into that. Like their heavy metal sounds so good. Like
I'm not super crazy on heavy metal, but I really appreciate the skill that goes into it.
Oh
because, like I had a coworker that like was a huge metalhead, and he like showed me a whole bunch of like heavy metal songs, and I never realized like how like difficult.
Oh yeah.
All the variety of like throat like sound that they'll do is like it's also like dangerous. Like you don't do it properly.
Yeah. Oh
there's
yeah.
a lot of bad things that could happen.
It's like
to your vocal cords.
like you could tear a muscle in your throat if you sing too hard or push too hard when you're doing the growls or whatever they do. Yeah. Not a huge metal fan, but there are some bands or songs that I'm like, you just get that like excitement or that, I don't know, that pump, I guess.
Yeah, and that's like in the realm of like creativity, again, it's like even if like genres or styles aren't to your taste, to learn to appreciate the energy and work that goes in behind.
Yeah, for sure. So really, since you're not like an ordinary guest in our podcast and one of our fans,
you're not an ordinary guest because you're the only guest we've had so far.
Well,
I still want your autographs before I leave.
Should we make one of these for each guest? Should you?
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you so much.
Yeah. Sharon just volunteered.
These are one of a kind. These are one of.
One of one.
No, but I think what do you like to see in the future from our podcast? Like, I think this is kind of unique to record this on the podcast, especially. I don't think, but like, what did you envision for us when you first heard us, when you found us, and like as you've been listening, like, what do you?
Yeah, I was really curious, like as far as like guests go, like hearing other people's perspectives on how they make things. So that like just adds an intrinsic value of what you guys are doing in general, because um creativity is so much more beyond it itself. It's all the different aspects of like applications to creativity, like the woodworking that you do, or the music that you guys would make, or the paintings that Grace would make, or the photography that a lot of people are doing. And then like there's so many like varieties of expressing the need to create, and a lot of times they can cross intersect with each other, as far as applying good tactics of like getting over creative block, or getting over the idea of like, are you creative or not? I would say you are. If you want to be, you can, and you just gotta like create, even if it's bad. You keep creating, and then you'll kind of like you'll learn to get over the hump of comparison, and get to the point of like self-expression. Um, yeah, really, the guest is something I'm like looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, it's funny. I've actually within the last today's Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So within the last 3 days, I found two very cool individuals who could be amazing podcast hosts for us. One is a greenhouse grower.
Oh yeah, this is the guy you were telling me about yesterday. Yeah, that sounds so cool.
Today I met this guy in Streetsboro. He has a shop with where he highlights other makers and stuff in the shop, and he has a paint splatter room that he rents.
Interesting.
Yeah, my wife, we were trying to like find a wholesale location to put her products in. So I met the guy, and immediately like he has a very unique background and things like that. So I find it very interesting how like we're both collecting all these unique people who are creative in so many diverse ways. So I'm definitely excited for the future guests and things like that.
Yeah, me too. When you first approached me and we came up with this idea for this podcast, that was like, I can't wait till we have like guests. So like I loved hearing your perspectives and how you first figured out that you're creative, and just like this is what I'm so excited about, is because, you know, we each have our own creative world that we're stuck in, and we have our windows to it and the internet and stuff. But actually having a long form conversation with a creative, really, it's like, oh, that is so different than how I approach creativity. Or is like, wow, that's a great idea. You could learn so much.
There is just a variety of how people approach their drafts or their prototypes, and how they get to their final product.
Yeah.
The method, the speed, like there's so many like different factors that any one person can just like make adjustments to, or like they just by nature approach a project this way, and the other people approach a project that way, and that's why it's such a good like podcast concept, because it's so diverse and where it stands.
Yeah, and just like inspiration will strike you from anywhere, new ideas of how to create can hit you from so many different perspectives.
First of all, thank you, Joey, for coming.
Yeah.
This is the last time you're ever going to come to this.
This is the last time you're ever going to show up in this basement.
No, I think super grateful. I thank you for all the support you've showed us over the years. I'm kidding.
All the years.
Months. But we're really curious to hear from you. Like Joey, please reach out. Maybe you'll end up in our podcast.
Yeah, seriously.
But
we want to have
lunch, and then you'll get.
Yeah, and more importantly, if you all have watched our previous episodes, we really care about what we were kind of preaching in a way. from our own experiences and analyzing creativity and putting it away where we hope that it helps you as a creative, or at least embrace the identity of a creative. We are here for all of it, literally. So please let us know, DM us where you're at and how we can make the podcast better to help everybody, really, any creative.
Yeah, and if you're listening on one of the like Spotify or podcasts, you can comment on our YouTube videos. These are all videos, and we do Instagram shorts. You can comment on there too. And if your comment is highlighted like Joey's was, so far you have a 100% success rate for getting on the podcast.
It's just a bad thing.
Just have a strategy like Joey did. Have a strategy.
There you go. It was brilliant, Joey. Nice work.
But yeah. Anyways, until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and keep exploring your own creative odyssey. See you next time.
Bye, guys.